It starts with a hat, a simple piece of cloth stitched together and worn as a personal expression. But in this upside-down world we've inherited, even a hat can mark someone as a target. Not because it's offensive in any rational sense, not because it incites violence, but because it dares to go against the mainstream narrative. That's all it takes now. A single choice of apparel becomes a litmus test for whether or not you're allowed to participate in everyday life. And when that choice doesn't align with the ideology of those in charge, the punishment is swift and unapologetic. This is no longer about customer service or professionalism. This is ideological warfare disguised as policy. The gatekeepers of finance, the very institutions that are supposed to be neutral, are now judge, jury, and executioner based on political fashion. The bank, a place meant to safeguard people's livelihoods, has instead turned into a weaponized platform for personal bias. A man walks in to conduct a routine transaction, nothing out of the ordinary. He has an account, he's a client, he's playing by all the rules. But he's wearing something they don't like. And just like that, the service stops. Not because of his behavior, not because of his financial record, but because of a message printed on a hat that doesn't fit the approved script. This is the slippery slope so many warned about, and now we're seeing it in action. When private institutions begin enforcing political standards, they become enforcers of a belief system, not providers of a service. They act as though their bias is policy, as if their opinion overrides the fundamental principles of equality and fairness. And this behavior is spreading. It's a cultural virus infecting every corner of society, mutating common sense into a kind of ideological totalitarianism. They'll say it's about tolerance or company values, but that's a smokescreen. The truth is, they've chosen sides in a culture war and are using their platforms to punish dissent. This isn't about just one hat. It's about control. It's about conditioning the public to self-censor, to obey, to conform. It's about teaching people that if you wear the wrong thing, say the wrong word, support the wrong cause, you can and will be excluded from systems you've paid into, systems you rely on. It's coercion, plain and simple. You comply, or you're cast out. They're creating a digital and financial caste system where the approved get access and the undesirable are shut out. All of this without debate, without transparency, and certainly without any concern for consequences. And it's not just happening in one place. This same attitude is echoed in tech companies, media outlets, schools, even grocery chains. They pretend neutrality while silently pushing a uniform ideology. Disagreement is treated like disease, to be diagnosed, isolated, and removed. And they believe they're doing the world a favor by doing it. They don't just disagree with others, they dehumanize them. They view differing opinions as threats, not conversations. And once you become a threat in their eyes, your basic rights become negotiable. What's more disturbing is how quickly this kind of behavior becomes normalized. A banker refusing service to someone based on a hat should be headline news across the board. It should spark outrage. Instead, it's met with either silence or applause from those who see their worldview reinforced. It's not just tolerated, it's celebrated. That tells you everything you need to know about the state of modern discourse. The new morality is not based on truth or fairness. It's based on ideological obedience. Step outside the line, and they'll slam the door in your face and no questions asked. This situation underscores the need to call this what it really is, a form of discrimination. The kind that hides behind polished desks and polite smiles while enforcing a rigid code of acceptability. It's not about professionalism, it's about politics. And the consequences go far beyond one man or one bank. If this can happen over a hat, what's next? If institutions can blacklist someone based on clothing, what happens when it's a post you shared, a book you read, or a conversation you had in private? Where does the line get drawn when every symbol, every word, every idea is filtered through a lens of ideological scrutiny? The answer is simple. There is no line, not for them. Because the goal isn't to make things fairer or safer. The goal is to dominate the cultural narrative and purge anything that doesn't submit. And they'll keep doing it as long as people stay silent, as long as they believe this is just about one person in one moment. But it never is. It's about a system that punishes the unapproved and protects the powerful, all while pretending to be neutral. The concept of instant karma is a powerful one, and it's especially clear when we see how a person's behavior can come back to haunt them in a completely unexpected way. Here, we're talking about an individual who made a decision based on their personal beliefs, only to have it backfire in a way that most people didn't see coming. The arrogance of someone in a position of power or influence, believing they can do as they please without consequences, often sets the stage for the most ironic of situations. In this case, a person in authority decided to use their power to shut someone out based on something as inconsequential as what they were wearing, without considering the possibility that the person they were dismissing might just be more than they seemed. It's a demonstration of how fragile positions of perceived power can be. Those who feel comfortable exerting authority over others often believe they're untouchable, immune to the very systems they manipulate. They feel that they hold the keys to whatever gate they are guarding, be it a job, a service, or a privilege, and can arbitrarily choose who's worthy and who's not. Yet, the second this person who once appeared as a simple, ordinary individual walks back into that same space transformed, the facade of control shatters. The same person who was once shunned and rejected is suddenly welcomed with open arms, as if nothing ever happened. The instant shift in attitude reveals the true nature of these supposed gatekeepers. Their power is based entirely on perception, not on principle. It's not just that karma caught up with them, it's the pure irony of the situation. The moment this individual returned under a new guise, the very people who had previously denied them were now bending over backward to accommodate them. It's a moment that exposes the superficiality of those in charge and their reliance on status and wealth as the true currency in our society. Their actions reveal the ugly truth. It wasn't about fairness or service at all. It was about aligning with a specific narrative, a cultural power dynamic, and when that person stepped back in as someone who fit that dynamic, everything changed. This shift also highlights the hypocrisy that runs rampant through institutions that claim to uphold values like equality and fairness. The rules suddenly stop mattering when the person in question is seen as powerful enough to challenge them. It becomes clear that the rules weren't about fairness, professionalism, or the integrity of the service being offered. They were about convenience and social alignment. When faced with someone who has wealth, influence, or social capital, suddenly the very structures designed to enforce impartiality are cast aside. It's a subtle yet powerful commentary on the fragility of fairness when it's not backed by true integrity or moral compass. What's most striking is how little thought the people in charge seem to have given to the long-term ramifications of their actions. In a world that's becoming increasingly interconnected, word spreads fast. This moment of discrimination, which might have seemed like a small inconsequential decision at the time, now carries a lasting weight. Not only does it damage the reputation of those in power, but it reinforces the very perceptions that people have about institutional biases and double standards. It's a failure of leadership, not just in the obvious sense, but also in the deeper understanding of how actions have consequences that ripple outward, affecting trust, relationships, and community. The moment someone experiences this type of arbitrary treatment, it doesn't just hurt them. It shakes the foundation of trust within the institution, making others question whether they too could be subjected to such treatment. The ability to deny service to someone based solely on their appearance or beliefs is in its own way a form of control, but it's a control that quickly falls apart when it's challenged. This return, this moment of reckoning, isn't just about one individual. It's about the larger cultural forces at play, the way society places value on certain people over others, and how those in power will do whatever they can to reinforce that hierarchy. But when the very structures they depend on to keep that hierarchy in place are tested, it's shown to be a fragile house of cards. The sudden reversal is a reminder that this isn't about fairness or service. It's about power, status, and who gets to decide who matters and who doesn't. The true lesson here isn't just about the instant karma that befell the ones who dismissed this individual. It's about the bigger picture of how power operates, how quickly it can be taken away, and how those who hold it often fail to realize its fleeting nature. When we talk about the mask slipping, we're not referring to a literal mask, but rather the facade that many individuals and institutions put on to hide their true intentions. It's about the act of pretending to be something they're not. pretending to be neutral, fair, or committed to upholding a certain set of principles. The moment this mask is exposed, it reveals the deeper truth beneath, a system that is anything but impartial, a system that manipulates appearances to conceal biases and motives. What's remarkable in this case is that the mask didn't just slip for a moment, it was ripped off entirely, and in that moment, the underlying reality of power dynamics, favoritism, and discrimination became undeniable. At first glance, everything appeared to be operating as it should. The institution was likely presenting itself as a neutral entity, offering service to customers regardless of their backgrounds, beliefs, or personal choices. The official stance would have been that all clients should be treated equally, that policies were in place to ensure fair and professional service to everyone. But this incident exposed the lie. It's clear that this institution was not really neutral. It was not serving the public at large in an unbiased way. Instead, it was serving a select group that conformed to a specific set of beliefs or ideals. In that moment, the institution's true colors came through, and it was evident that the mask of neutrality had always been a shield used to cover its true intentions. The cold rejection of someone based on something as trivial as their clothing, choice was a clear indication that the institution wasn't just neutral. It was actively taking sides in a cultural and political battle. The person in question wasn't rejected because of bad behavior, a poor financial history, or a failure to meet service requirements. They were rejected for wearing something that symbolized a particular political or cultural stance, something that didn't fit into the approved box of acceptable behaviors or opinions. This wasn't about customer service, it was about allegiance to a particular worldview. And in that moment, the mask was peeled away, exposing a deep-seated bias. What happened next is the real eye-opener. The person returns, but this time under a new guise. Now, instead of being just another face in the crowd, they represent something larger, something that fits neatly within the structure of power that the institution is comfortable with. The moment the individual steps back into the space, the entire attitude shifts. Suddenly, the same institution that had just rejected them is eager to serve them, to cater to their every need. The mask has completely fallen off, revealing that it was never really about service or professionalism. It was always about who you are and what you represent in the eyes of those in power. The shift in treatment reveals that the institution, and likely many others like it, are not truly committed to serving everyone equally. They are invested in serving those who align with their preferred cultural or political outlook. When someone's status, wealth, or influence is perceived to be on a higher level, the rules suddenly change. This moment exposes the double standard that exists in many systems today. There are supposed to be policies in place that ensure impartiality, that promise fair treatment regardless of who you are or what you believe. But the reality is much darker. It's a reality where biases are quietly baked into the system, where your worth as a customer, as a person, is determined by factors that have nothing to do with your behavior or your character. It's a world where institutional neutrality is nothing more than a farce, a tool used to maintain control while offering the illusion of fairness. The hypocrisy is not just in the way the person was treated, but in the fact that the institution could have easily followed through with the same level of professionalism regardless of who they thought the individual was. It could have honored the principles of impartiality and service without ever needing to know who this person really was. But when that person returned, the entire system bent, revealing that its commitment to fairness wasn't genuine at all. The person's true identity, one that aligned with their idea of power, was enough to shift the narrative completely. This should serve as a wake-up call to anyone who still believes that institutions are neutral, fair, or based on merit. The truth is that they are often driven by agendas, by the need to align with those who hold influence, and by a willingness to throw impartiality out the window when it no longer suits their interests. The mask slipping isn't just about exposing one incident of unfair treatment. It's about recognizing that these power dynamics are present in every institution, every system, and every relationship. It's about seeing that these structures are not as neutral as they claim to be, and that they are constantly navigating and reinforcing the cultural and political ideologies of the day. When the mask slips, what we're really seeing is the unfiltered truth. That too often these systems are built to serve the powerful, not the people. This situation is a stark illustration of a much broader issue that many people have been turning a blind eye to for too long. It's not just about one individual facing rejection. It's about the larger systemic forces at play that govern how people are treated in society based on superficial judgments, assumptions, and cultural biases. The event we're discussing is a microcosm of the greater cultural battle that is being fought in every corner of our modern lives. It's a battle over who gets to define what's acceptable, who gets to decide who has value, and ultimately who gets to have access to basic services, opportunities, and resources. The larger question is, what happens when these forces are left unchecked, when they operate without any accountability? The truth is, this isn't just an isolated incident. It's part of a much larger pattern in which institutions, organizations, and even individuals are consistently making decisions based on what's approved in their particular ideological sphere, rather than on merit, fairness, or respect for the rights of others. These biases don't just affect people in terms of who gets served or who gets ahead in life. They shape entire systems of interaction, creating an environment where people who don't conform to the prevailing political or cultural narrative are excluded, penalized, or made to feel unwelcome. Whether it's in schools, workplaces, media outlets, or, as we see here, financial institutions, the message is the same. If you don't fit in, you're out. This is the harsh reality that many are facing today. What's particularly concerning is the extent to which these biases are normalized, even celebrated in certain circles. The idea that the most powerful institutions, those that hold the keys to essential services, can simply pick and choose who to serve based on nothing more than their political or social identity is a direct challenge to the values that many of these institutions claim to uphold. The idea that these systems are built on neutrality, fairness, and equal treatment is one that, increasingly, seems like a distant fantasy. And the worst part is, most people are either unaware of it or have become so accustomed to it that they accept it without question. In this moment, the real question is, how long will this double standard persist? How long will society tolerate systems that operate on a who you know or what you represent basis, rather than a meritocratic or fair one? If we allow these institutions to continue as they are, if we allow these biases to remain unchallenged, we will continue to see an erosion of trust in the very systems that were supposed to be there for all of us. The division between those who are in and those who are out grows wider and more pronounced, and it becomes increasingly difficult to tell who is making the decisions, who is pulling the strings, and why certain people are afforded access and respect, while others are left out in the cold. The real damage here isn't just about one person being mistreated. It's about what happens to the fabric of society when people stop trusting the systems that govern them, when fairness is no longer a guiding principle, and when bias and favoritism rule the day. It sends a powerful message that the rules don't apply equally to everyone. It tells us that power, wealth, and influence are the ultimate deciders in a world that should be based on fairness and equality. It tells us that no matter how much we play by the rules, if we don't fit the mold, we are expendable. This situation serves as a wake-up call, not just for the individual directly affected, but for everyone who believes in fairness, equality, and the idea that everyone should be treated with respect, regardless of their background, appearance, or beliefs. The question now becomes, what will we do about it? Will we continue to let these forces dictate our lives, or will we stand up and demand a society that values fairness, impartiality, and true equality? The answer will determine the kind of future we are building, one where everyone has access to the same opportunities, or one where access is granted based on arbitrary rules and the politics of exclusion. The stakes are much higher than they appear on the surface. As we look at the broader implications of this situation, it's crucial to recognize that the issues at play go far beyond one isolated incident or one individual's experience. What this story represents is a cultural moment, a reflection of the larger forces shaping our world today. The real problem isn't just about one person being denied service or being unfairly judged based on their appearance or beliefs. It's about how these patterns of exclusion and bias are becoming normalized in every facet of life, from financial institutions to workplaces, schools, and even social spaces. This is a battle for the very fabric of fairness, equality, and the integrity of the systems that we all rely on to function in society. When power, status, and influence are the deciding factors in who gets served, who gets heard, and who gets to participate in public life, it undermines the fundamental principles that are supposed to govern us. Institutions that claim to operate on neutrality and fairness become complicit in perpetuating inequality when they use their authority to discriminate against people who don't conform to a particular worldview. The more we allow these systems to go unchallenged, the more we erode the basic social contract that we've all agreed to, that we should be treated with respect and dignity, regardless of our political views, affiliations, or outward appearances. It's time to recognize that the fight isn't just for fairness in a single transaction or interaction. It's for a deeper, more fundamental understanding of what it means to be a part of a community, a society, and a shared world. This is about ensuring that the basic rights of individuals aren't determined by the whims of those in power or by the prevailing political or cultural ideologies. We need to hold institutions accountable, not only for their actions, but for the impact those actions have on the trust that people place in them. The truth is, we cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the systemic biases and inequalities that exist in the world. We must recognize that these aren't isolated problems, but are part of a larger pattern of exclusion that affects all of us. When people are denied access to services, opportunities, or respect based on arbitrary criteria, the very foundations of fairness are shaken. If we allow these attitudes to continue to dominate, we risk creating a society where only those who conform to the dominant ideologies are valued, and that is a dangerous path to walk. Moving forward, it is essential for all of us to take a step back and reflect on the kind of society we want to live in. Do we want a society where we are divided based on our differences, where we are judged by the labels we wear and the beliefs we hold? Or do we want a society where everyone, regardless of their personal views or appearance, is treated equally and fairly, where we can coexist and respect one another's differences? The choice is ours, but it requires action, accountability, and a collective commitment to fairness and justice. By acknowledging these issues, confronting them, and working to create systems that truly embody equality, we can begin to rebuild the trust that has been lost. We have the power to change the way things are, but it starts with understanding the problem, recognizing its impact, and committing to making a difference. If we are to have a future where fairness, equality, and respect for all are the standard, we must challenge these biases head-on and demand better from the systems that are meant to serve us.